President Trump is going overseas. It's his first official overseas trip, even though he actually took one to the Pope's funeral. That was an unplanned. This was the plan. And just like he did in his first term, he decided to make Saudi Arabia his first stop. And the relationship that he has developed with Saudi Arabia and UAE and Qatar is quite close. And let's just be honest, he's blurring the lines between public and private in a way that it's not even subtle, right? It's so blatant. But I think at the heart of what you're going to see this week, and the shiny metal object of the week, is going to be the news that was broken over the weekend, and we had already gotten hints of this, and that is the fact that the President of the United States is about to accept the largest gift that any entity has ever given the United States. And what if I told you that this gift was coming from the chief patron of the terrorist organization known as Hamas? You remember Hamas. This is the group behind the killing and kidnapping of Israelis and Americans on October 7th. This is a terrorist organization that has the blood of Americans on their hands, the blood of Israelis on their hands, the blood of other Palestinians on their hands. This is not a good group of people. Okay, Hamas is a bad organization, and their chief protector is the government of Qatar. And what is the government of Qatar about to do? It's about to gift Donald Trump a plane, a 747. And Donald Trump, it's considered, it's so ornate that it's called a palace in the sky. So, and Donald Trump wants to accept this gift. He sort of kicked the tires on this plane down in Palm Beach when it was parked there. It was just sort of showing it off to him, and he got to tour it. Look, there is an actual clause in the Constitution, the Emoluments Clause, that makes foreign gifts like this, personally taking it, illegal. Now technically, the Trump government is saying that this is a gift to the U.S. Air Force, and that it'll eventually end up as a gift to the Trump Presidential Library. And so since it is not being given to an individual, it is not connected to any specific act, that somehow this is not bribery and that somehow this is constitutional. Okay, so meanwhile, I'm about to sell you some land in the Everglades Swamp if you'd like to buy that. Great land. Trust me, you should be able to develop on it quite easily. Look, this is as corrupt of a bargain as we've seen any president ever make. And I know that it's hard to keep up with the amount of blatant corruption that has taken place in just the first 120 so days, right? This trip was preceded, by the way, this trip to the Middle East that the president is on was preceded by his sons going there, doing some various business deals, including in the crypto space. In some ways, laying the groundwork for the, quote, official presidential visit. And oh, by the way, the White House is actually signaling that, hey, this isn't a big national security visit. This isn't about Iran or the future of Gaza or anything like that, that this really is more of a business trip. Now, they're claiming it's the business of, Gulf states doing business with the United States and with American businesses, and there's going to be a big event on the 13th, on Tuesday, in Saudi Arabia. That is a public-private event in order to essentially connect American businesses with potentially with Saudi money. And look, Saudi Arabia is an ally, right? They're an ally. We can have the conversation about whether Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar, whether these countries are small d democratic. Here's a clue: they're not. But certainly, they have things we need, including access to energy. Right? This has always been a very transactional relationship that we've had with them. But what Donald Trump is doing it by personalizing this relationship, and there's already so many uncomfortable aspects to this. His son-in-law has private equity money that came from the Middle East in and around the deals he was doing for the so-called Abraham Accords. Steve Mnuchin, when he was Treasury Secretary, as he was leaving, was taking trips on official government business, getting ready for his own private equity money that he now manages there. and has a significant investment from these Middle Eastern players in the Gulf states. And now you've got the president of the United States just blatantly accepting this plane. Now, look, the plane itself, there is no possibility this is legal, but the irony is that the White House is claiming they went to the Attorney General and they went to the White House counsel, and they somehow think on a technicality that they're getting around any constitutional problems with accepting this gift. Whether it's legal or not, it's inappropriate. This is a terrible look. The president of the United States of America, can't afford to buy its own presidential plane, so they need a gift of a monarch / dictator in the Middle East. They have to get a plane from him. By the way, it is a Boeing plane. At least it's American made. I will give the president that. It would have been even more awkward if he was being gifted an Airbus in order to make it the presidential plane. But if they remotely want to make this legal, if he's going to make it Air Force One, and apparently that's what they're going to do. They're going to accept this plane. It's going to get essentially retrofitted with all the things a president needs in the air, and it's going to be Air Force One for the remainder of Trump's term. Trump is frustrated because there was supposed to be a new Air Force One. There hasn't been a new Air Force One in 30 years. And there was supposed to be a new Air Force One. There's been delays, and it looks like Boeing, because they can't deliver anything on time these days, Boeing is not going to be able to deliver this until 2029, when Donald Trump will no longer be president. But he needs his plane now. I guess he stomped his feet and pounded the table. He wants his plane. Give him his PS5. Give him his video games now. Give him his plane right now. Sometimes I've always said with Donald Trump, if you really want to understand his psyche, if you have a teenage boy or had a teenage boy, then you know what it's like to manage Donald Trump. They want stuff instantaneously. They can't handle no for an answer, and they're always looking for a shortcut to get what they want. This has been Donald Trump's life for what is he now? It's going to be 79 in June. So the plane is going to be the latest shiny metal object. The irony to this is, I think Donald Trump believes he's untouchable now, right? His own base is not going to care about this. The elected Republicans, who all were outraged about Hunter Biden making money off of Joe Biden and his last name, have been incredibly silent as Eric and Don Trump Jr. have done this crypto business using their father's name to do this. Never mind half the deals they've been conducting in the Middle East, all with overtures having to do with what the federal government, what the U.S. government foreign policy is going to do. It's totally been mixed in here. If Hunter Biden were doing 10% of this, you might have had Democrats agreeing to impeachment proceedings against Joe Biden if this is how Hunter Biden and the business of the Bidens were behaving. But that's what the business of the Trumps are behaving. And I'll be very curious if any Republicans are comfortable sticking their head up and saying this is wrong. We saw with the crypto, when he did his crypto fundraiser, where basically they announced if you buy his fake token, the Trump coin, the top coin holders are going to get access to the president, going to get a private fundraiser, and then if you are really a top buyer of his coin, you get even further access, VIP tour, possibly of the White House, possibly of something else. And Cynthia Lummis and a few others, they thought, oh, that might be a bridge too far. And actual crypto advocates have quietly been whispering that Donald Trump's greed with these Melania coins and these Trump coins, his personal greed in trying to make and scam crypto money here, is probably making it a lot harder to legitimize the idea of the crypto industry. And you saw some Democrats who are trying to be pro-crypto here. Look, I'm a huge skeptic of this. It is, I deal in baseball cards. There's no difference to me between crypto and baseball cards. I believe in the blockchain. The blockchain is an incredible technology, but we're not turning it into a currency, and we're not replacing the US dollar. And by the way, if you ever wanted to spend crypto, do you know what you have to do to spend crypto? You got to exchange it for the US currency. Then you can actually spend this money. And it is assigned to this. So it is simply just buying something with a baseball card or buying something with a piece of art, except we're calling it crypto. And there's no doubt there's a lot of people who have overinvested in crypto and are desperate to see this legitimized and decided Donald Trump was their best vehicle to essentially try to get him to, find a way to line his pockets with crypto to make him invested in it so that he too wants to see some sort of federal government legitimizing crypto so that they can all sort of make whatever money they think this crypto should be worth, they want to make it work. So you add all this up, and there, this is one of those where I'm going to quote Bob Dole from 1996 when he was frustrated that when the Clintons were raising money in the White House. But I remember when Republicans thought that was a bridge too far. I'll be curious to see if any of these Republicans speak up today about the plane, about crypto, about this entire trip to the Middle East, which seems to be more about personal business dealings than it is for anything professional on behalf of the federal government and on behalf of the U.S. taxpayers. But here we are. And the question is whether this is something that is going to be tolerated by elected officials. Look, I think he thinks he's untouchable because he's been impeached twice. And he's probably right. What are they going to do? Impeach him again? They don't have the votes. They'll not do it. He knows he can get away with it. And he knows that there's enough people in his orbit also trying to surf with him and make money off of these questionable deals that they're not going to say anything. And some of these folks are getting campaign money from some of these groups in order to also keep quiet. So look, this is it's a blatant violation of the Constitution. Anybody trying to claim that it's not is just rationalizing craziness, if you will. The idea that this somehow doesn't violate the Emoluments Clause is willful ignorance.